talking about the songs of the new dawn, the poetry of divine relationship. We have a special guest here, Alok Andy Douglas. And he is a writer, an editor, a spiritual counselor, and I'm going to let him give a little more background introduction to himself. But thank you so much for being here with us. Really excited to hear about this. It's, something, yeah, creative and music and inspiring and spiritual, I think it's wonderful. So thanks again for joining us, and I'm going to hand the speaker to you.
Thanks, Krishna Prema. It's wonderful to be here, and that was a wonderful meditation. Yeah, good to see everybody. I'm going to be speaking this morning about sacred poetry, sacred art, sacred music, and how we can use those artistic tools to deepen our spiritual lives, to deepen our relationship with the divine. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about a project I have been working on for many years and which came to fruition recently. I published a book which is translations of Bengali spiritual poetry, and many of you will know that this poetry is actually based on songs called Prabhat Samgiit, songs written by the spiritual teacher Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. I'm sure many of us here are very familiar with him and his work. Before I go any further, I'm just going to play about a minute of one of those songs, just so you can get a sense of what they're like. So let me see if I can do this. Here we go.
সোনালি ভোর জীবনে মন আবার ফিরে আসছে ফিরে সোনালি ভোর জীবনে মন আবার ফিরে আসছে ফিরে শত ব্যথা শত বেদনা শত লাঞ্ছনা আধার চিরে সোনালি ভোর জীবনে মন আবার ফিরে আসছে ফিরে
Okay, so that's just a minute or so of one of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar's songs. I'm going to share a slide presentation with you, and we'll begin to talk more about those songs and their translation. Let me see if I can do this. Here we go. Okay, good. Can you see this slide show? Wonderful. I also understand that this talk is being translated, so if I'm speaking too quickly, please let me know and I can slow down. So, and I'm seeing that the people's photos on the side are cutting off some of the text. Do you see that, Karun? Or is that just on my screen?
I think it's just your screen. I'm
Okay.
seeing
I think I can.
Full slide.
I think I can fill in the gaps. I remember what I wrote there. So Prabhat Samgiit are a body of 5,018 songs. That in itself is a remarkable achievement that Sarkar wrote that many songs, but they are, well, you heard one of them just now. They are really remarkable in their rhythm, in their melody, and especially in the deep meaning of the lyrics, which are about creating a connection between the individual and God. So these are 5,018 mystical devotional songs composed by Prabhat Sarkar, mostly in the Bengali language. So who was Sarkar? He lived from 1921 to 1990. He was a spiritual master. He was the founder of Ananda Marga. Many of you know this spiritual organization. He was a composer, a linguist, an ecologist, a philosopher, and a revolutionary. He composed over 5,000 songs, Prabhat Samgiit. He wrote more than 200 books. He developed an alternative economic theory, and he offered a profoundly ecological and spiritual philosophy called neo-humanism. There's a picture of him. So, as I mentioned, most of these songs are written in his native tongue, Bengali. And here there are a few songs that are written in other languages like Hindi, English, and some regional languages in India, Sanskrit as well. But the majority are in Bengali. Here's an example of the Bengali script. And this word says Bengali. Here's the geographical distribution of the Bengali language. You can see it's mostly centered in the eastern part of India. There in the state of West Bengal and in Bangladesh. And this is where Sarkar lived for much of his life in the Kolkata area. So this is the cover of my new book, Songs of the New Dawn, selected song poems of Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar, translations by me, Andy Douglas. I'm just going to read to you a little bit from the introduction. We'll give you a little more understanding of what I was trying to achieve. These songs movingly depict the intimate relationship between human lover and divine beloved, grounded in the devotional tradition of Bhakti Yoga, which depicts an embodied divine. The songs sometimes take the form of conversations, even arguments between lovers. This relationship can consume the devotee with longing and the realization of the intense love that God has for creation. The best way to experience Songs of the New Dawn, of course, is to sing or listen to the sung melodies. However, the literary beauty of these lyrics deserve our attention as well. They have been injected with a powerful insight, clarity, sense of purpose, and love energy. These songs were intended to be used as tools, as devotional and spiritual levers for opening one's heart and expressing the infinite desires within. So we'll talk a little bit more a little later about how we can use sacred poetry and sacred song as tools in our spiritual lives. I'll just say a word about the translation process. I have studied the Bengali language for many years. I would not say that I'm fluent, but I can read the script and I can consult dictionaries. And also there were many, so my process was starting with existing translations often and going back and looking at each word and trying to come up with appropriate, meaningful translations into English, consulting with native speakers sometimes. So in the sense that these are not literal translations, I like to call them transpirations. They're sort of inspired translations. They're not, I wouldn't say that they're official or literal, but I tried to bring out the poetic sensibility even more. And you could say that Sarkar In a sense, is composing and writing in a line with other great spiritual composers and poets. Certainly Rabindranath Tagore, who was a great Bengali writer and poet. Sarkar's songs are very much in that tradition. But also, I would argue, in the sense of Rumi and Kabir, both of these poets, Hafiz also, they've all become very popular in the West recently. And so in my own small way, I wanted to help to help people to see that Sarkar also had this amazing body of work that could be as inspiring and as meaningful as some of these other poets that are more well-known. Okay, so art and the spiritual journey. The nature of much spiritual experience is an entering into silence, into wordlessness. God is indescribable. So how then do we describe experiences that border on the ineffable, the indescribable? Metaphor and image are a great way to do this. Anthropologist James Fernandez says, metaphor is one of the few devices we have for leaping beyond the essential privacy of the experiential process. Poetry and song are ideally suited for this process. Through metaphor and imagery, the listener or reader's mind is carried or moves to a new understanding. In fact, the word metaphor means to carry across. We're trying to carry the self across a sense of separateness from God. As Sarkar said, mysticism is the never-ending endeavor to find a link between the finite and the infinite. So poetry, song, and art not only describe the experience of moving toward the divine, they can also initiate that experience. They can, we can use poetry to jumpstart our spiritual practice, to take us into a deeper realm. I was very blessed to work with a talented artist on this book, and she created 20 of these amazing drawings that illustrate the themes. Her name is Kindle Corwell. And so she has created 20 illustrations that illustrate some of the themes in Prabhat Samgiit. And as we go through this presentation, I invite you to reflect on these images and reflect on the poetry that we'll get to in a moment, and allow it to sort of take you deeper and notice what it does for you, where it lands in your body, how it affects your mind, your mood. Just see how these presentations of spiritual sacred art and poetry can have their effect on you. Related to the previous image, this translation, listen, friend, even the swan, though he flies far away, returns eventually to his nest. If your lover has gone off somewhere, will he return again too? Karun, I forgot to look at the time when I started. Can you give me a time check about how much time I have left?
Let's see. I'm absorbed in the presentation too. We were aiming for breakout rooms at about 20 minutes after the hour.
Okay, so I've got about 25
About
minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah, a little over 20 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, One other concept that I want to introduce before diving into the themes completely are two terms that Sarkar used: aesthetic and supra-aesthetic science. And I'll just read these quotes from him. The movement of human beings from the subtle sphere to the subtler sphere, that unhindered movement is the stage of aesthetic science. And I think he's simply talking about the effect that beautiful art can have on our minds in transporting us to a deeper realm, a realm of aesthetic appreciation. However, he argues that there's a state and a stage beyond that, and that's called supra-aesthetic science. In this stage, the person becomes entranced. They're no longer, sorry, I cannot read all of the text, but they're no longer, able to experience the taste. They become lost. So supra-aesthetic science is that art, poetry, music, which transports us to a divine realm, transports us to that borderline with the spiritual world. Aesthetic science takes us to an appreciation of art, but supra-aesthetic involves the spiritual body as well, the spiritual life. What is supra-aesthetic science? It is a science to inextricably merge the unit consciousness with the eternal consciousness of God. The combination of dance, song, and instrumental music creates an indescribable heavenly atmosphere. It makes human beings forget themselves. So this is what sacred art can do for us. We can become so immersed in the ideas, in the feeling, in the ideation behind the art, that we actually begin to lose ourselves, to become one, to become closer to God. And that's the beauty, the real beauty of this kind of art. So, themes of Prabhat Samgiit. I simply went through the book. I have 90 translations out of the 5,000 that Sarkar did. I went through and pulled out a few of the themes that I thought were, themes that he repeats many times, themes that are especially significant. And we can see these as different ways to approach divine relationship. Finding God in nature. The morning star blooms against the horizon. Winter fog rising on a southern breeze. Young leaves awaken, nectar streaming from ripe buds. Blossoms dot the branches, and the birds murmur and coo. A warm wave rolls in from the sea, and longing for you, I light the lamps. There are many themes related to nature in Prabhat Samgiit. Another theme that comes up repeatedly, meeting God in dreams. I met you in a dream, one moonlit night. I met you. In this dream, I floated along a lamplit path, drifting on a current of melody. Your touch renews me. I feel drunk on new light. I met you in a dream, and I have you. And here we have one of the fundamental themes of Prabhat Samgiit, encountering God in the rhythms and melodies of song. This is really the essence of many of these songs. Sarkar talks about how God is the essential, the fundamental, the cosmic rhythm. And when we dance along to his to his tune, we become closer, we become one with him. There is also in this particular song reference to Ojanapatik, the mysterious traveler, the mysterious wayfarer, and that's another theme that permeates many of these songs. After what seemed like ages, the mysterious wayfarer touched down, shimmering with graceful vibrato, and suddenly life brims with music. I may have lost everything. I may be destitute, living in oblivion. But even within this emptiness, rhythm reaches out, a rhythm that calls me to be fulfilled, invokes that which is always beautiful, fills my life with song. Another beautiful image from the book. Meeting the beloved in the garden. Many Prabhat Samgiits are set in a garden setting. For example, you surf into my garden on a wave of fragrance, trailing scent of bakula flower, darting in to the rhythm of a honeybee. We get a lot of images of different types of flowers with different types of fragrances, heavenly, heady fragrances, and also the insects and birds and animals in the garden, reminding us that every creature in creation is imbued with a kind of divine spirit, and every creature and every human we encounter also can be a teacher, a spiritual teacher for us. It's the beauty of Tantra, right? Which is at the heart of some of this spiritual practice, that everything is divine and everything is a divine teacher for us. There's the honeybee. We find the divine in the ever-changing seasons. On a cool autumn breeze, you are coming, you are coming. Jasmine leaves litter the garden grounds. Blossoms of Spanish cherry dwindle and drop. The chrysanthemum stretches. A rosebud opens. The ginger flower is seized with a lust for life. Bees humming with hope soar skyward, and the cloudless night smiles with stars, keeping a vigil until you come. We meet the divine through this poetry in the sea, in the sky, and in storms as well. Fear grips the sailors at sea, their ships tossed perilously on the crests of waves. Amidst the frenzied ocean thunder, spirit dances wildly. Here's another very interesting set of metaphors. The coming and going, the play of hide and seek, the seeming distance of God. And this, to me, this so beautifully sums up these metaphors sum up uh, how it often feels like one moment we're feeling divine grace, and the next moment we're completely feeling empty. It's kind of the up and down movement of the spiritual path. We feel that God is with us. We have a deep meditation and feel that grace. And the next day something happens and we forget, or we just feel out of the flow. It's this coming and going. And Sarkar describes this as a hide and seek of the divine. And sometimes God seems very far away, but of course, what other songs remind us is that God is never far away. God is as close as our breath. Why do you stay so far away, like a distant star? Don't you know that with a single touch you could have me? This getting to know you process is too drawn out, too lukewarm. You forget in whose heart you lit a fire. I didn't forget. I sit and wait, cradling my gift, laughing, crying. You watch everything silently. Of course, searching is an important theme, and answering a call. Year after year, age after age, at the helm of this dilapidated boat, I scour the planet for you, pitching across the ocean of time, flying all ports, searching for your beautiful form. I sail every sea. You never show yourself, never utter a word. Still, I fervently look for you, clinging to the tiller of my boat, year after year, age after age. Of course, we get this sense in some of these that we never find God, but that's not the case, because many other of the songs are about the deep and beautiful satisfaction we feel in the relationship, in feeling God close within our hearts. But that's the beauty of poetry, is that it can sink into a particular feeling and express it fully. You know, that sense of, am I never going to find you? You know, for years I've been searching. Okay, I thought we would just take a quick, 3 or 4 minute interlude here and see if any of you have thoughts you'd like to share about how you best use Prabhat Samgiit or any kind of devotional music, literature, or art as a spiritual practice. Is there anything that anyone would like to share at this point? For example, what I do is usually I sing one Prabhat Samgiit every morning before I do kirtan and before I do meditation, and that brings me into a particular mood. Does anyone have anything they would like to share about how sacred music, art, literature can be used as a spiritual practice? And after that, we'll go back to a few more themes.
Go ahead and just unmute yourself or write in the chat. I can share that I'm involved in a group that does what's called the Dances of Universal Peace. And so maybe about once a month, spend a couple of hours, so about 2 hours, doing something that's not unlike kirtan, but definitely using often folk tunes and very simple dances. I joke they're simple enough I can do them, um, to engage the entire body. I find it quite meaningful. Let's see. Karuna says, I sometimes sing in Dharmachaka, online or in person. And there's another one says we use Prabhat Samgiit in Panchajana. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Another, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, one thing that I like to do is match my mood with a particular lyric of Prabhat Samgiit. So if I'm feeling sad or feeling a sense of deep longing, I'll look for a Prabhat Samgiit song that expresses that mood, and then just belt it out, just sink into the ideation of that particular song. Anybody else? Or should we continue with the presentation?
Namaskar, this is Monica. I would also like to say something.
Yes.
Let me unmute myself. There we go. We have a weekly Spanish meditation, and we always start with Prabhat Samgiit as well. And the other thing I wanted to share is that I coordinate a group of Spanish speakers, and they are all translating the Prabhat Samgiit into Spanish.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay. We will go on with a few more themes.
Just maybe a quick comment. There's in the chat, I think it was Karuna said, heard from Devashis that there is a Prabhat Samgiit for every single mood. Train the mind of the devotee.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with 5,000 songs,
Yes.
there are quite a few different moods that are expressed.
Yeah. And Tamara Martinez says this early morning, the Prabhat Samgiit number 30 talked of a distant pole star. About that star and what the experience could be. Wonder which star.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that you all are embracing this particular practice. That's wonderful. Okay. A few more themes that we can find. I mentioned this before, the unknown or mysterious traveler, Ojana Potik. This is it's an interesting device that Sarkar uses, again, to hint at that nature of the coming and going. You never know when he's going to show up, but suddenly the mysterious traveler is there, and you have an experience. What mission is the mysterious traveler on today? Don't you know? He's come to drench the flowers with nectar. Clutching his cosmic paintbrush, he dyes each petal lovingly by hand. Okay, speaking of moods, in a lover's relationship, you have hurt feelings, you have pain, you have grief. There can be perceived hard-heartedness, different kinds of pain. That's kind of, to me, that's the beauty of the path of bhakti and of some of these devotional songs that express that. It embodies God, and so you can have a conversation with the lover, with the beloved, and you can also express your grievances, like, where you didn't show up, where were you? I'm waiting for you. So this one is kind of an interesting song. Oh, your hard-heartedness is devastating. You drift tantalizingly close, then flee the scene. You deposit me on the top branch of the tree, and you yank away the ladder. In spring, you awaken the tender buds, only to scorch them to ashes with summer's searing heat. You light the lamp, you blow it out. All this is squeezing the juice from my green heart. Is it too much to ask for a speck of grace? I love this because it frames everything in our lives that happens to us, good or bad, in terms of the play of the divine. You know, when something painful happens, we can see that, well, sometimes life unfolds in this way. The divine has its play going on, and there are reasons for things happening. And these kinds of songs frame that further in you know, in a very personal way. Here's a song where the devotee is kind of a little bit hard-hearted. I didn't think you would come on such a rainy, wintry night. I didn't open up and say, come inside. I certainly didn't tell you to come so close. You came even closer. I didn't invite you to speak, didn't realize your feelings were wounded. You gazed into my face, then left, following a lonely path, heedless of the biting cold. Not even once did I extend an invitation on this rainy, wintry night. A few more themes: being stuck in materialism, light in the darkness, waking up, doing God's work. I like this particular image. The light is streaming in at the window, and the person is covering their head with a pillow. There's a few that deal with the idea of a wasted life. You know, you can look back at certain periods of your life and really regret things, especially if you feel that you were not living in a spiritual way. How many potent evenings, magical mornings, how many cool spring days and warm autumn nights did I waste? And how many hopes drifted away on a cascade of tears? But there's always grace. Without grace, no one can know you. How can a raindrop fathom the ocean? It can't. It simply dissolves. Throughout time, you and I have loved each other, though I didn't always grasp this. Arouse that love. Make our own unknown love known forever. And I realize time is getting short. I think I just have one or two more. Themes related to neo-humanism, the idea that all of us are connected deeply on an existential level. We need to work to protect the planet, the plants and animals, and build a true human society. I'm going to skip that one, I think. This one is nice. This is a tree planting song. The young plants of today will one day blanket the desert with their fruits, flowers, and green leaves. The call of love demands that we preserve them. And I think I have three more themes. The moon. So there's one with the moon, which is often in Prabhat Samgiit, is often a symbol for the divine. The peacock, which is often a symbol for joy, great joy and expansiveness and vitality. And bees and pollen, we talked about that before, sort of fertilizing divine ideas and creating nectar, the divine nectar in our lives. I think we're going to end with the peacock. Let's see. There's the peacock image looking in the window. Is it time to wrap up, Karun?